the big thing for me wasn't even ChatGPT. It wasn't even Claude. It was DeepSeek. Running DeepSeek locally and seeing the think box where it converses with itself about how to formulate the response. I almost wanted to think, is this a gimmick? Is it doing this as a performance for my benefit, but that's not actually how it thinks? If this is how it actually thinks, okay, I'm a little scared.
Yeah.
This is incredibly human, how it thinks in this way.
Yeah.
But where does that go? So in 95, one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite B movies came out, The Lawnmower Man.
Great movie.
Incredible movie about virtual reality.
Yeah.
Being an avatar and living in VR. Like, the story was a mess, but the aesthetics, the world it built up was incredible. And I thought, we're 5 years away. I'm going to be living in VR now. I'm just going to be floating around. I'm going to be an avatar. This is where most humans can spend most of the day. That didn't happen. We're 30 years later. VR is still not here. It's here for gaming. It's here for some specialized applications. My oldest loves playing Gorilla Tag. I don't know if you've tried that. That's basically the hottest VR game. Wonderful. That's great. It's really hard to predict the future because we just don't know. And then when you factor in AI and you have even the smartest people go like, I don't think we fully understand how this works.
But then on the flip side, you have Moore's law that seems to have worked for many, many, many years in decreasing the size of the transistor, for example.
Yes.
So like, Flash didn't take over the internet, but Moore's law worked. So
Yes.
we don't know which one AI is.
Which one it is. And this is what I find so fascinating too. I forget who did this presentation, but someone in the web community did this great presentation on the history of the airplane. So you go from the Wright brothers flying in, 1903 or something like that. And 40 years later, you have jet flight. Just an unbelievable amount of progress in 4 decades. Then in 56, I think it was, the hull design for the Boeing 747, essentially precursor, was designed. And basically nothing has happened since. Just minor tweaks and improvements on the flying experience since the 50s. Somehow, if you were to predict where flying was going to go and you were sitting in 42 and you'd remember the Wright brothers flying in 03 and you were seeing that jet engines coming, you're like, we're going to fly to the stars in another 2 decades. We're going to invent super mega hypersonic flights that's going to traverse the earth in 2 hours. And then that didn't happen. It tapped out. This is what's so hard about predicting the future. We can be so excited in the moment because we're drawing a line through early dots on a chart. And it looks like those early dots are just going up and to the right, and sometimes they just flatten out. This is also one of those things where we have so much critical infrastructure, for example, that still runs on COBOL, that about 5 humans around the world really understand truly, deeply, that it's possible for society to lose a competence it still needs because it's chasing the future. COBOL is still with us. This is one of the things I think about with programming. Ruby on Rails is at such a level now that in 50 years from now, it's exceedingly likely that there's still a ton of Ruby on Rails systems running around. Now, very hard to predict what that exact world is going to be like, but yesterday's weather tells us that if there's still COBOL code from the 70s operating Social Security today, and we haven't figured out a clean way to convert that, let alone understand it, we should certainly be humble about predicting the future. I don't think any of the programmers who wrote that COBOL code back in the 70s had any damn idea that in 2025, checks were still being cut off the business logic that they had encoded back then. But that just brings me to the conclusion on the question for what should a young programmer do? You're not going to be able to predict the future. No one's going to be able to predict the future. If you like programming, you should learn programming. Now, is that going to be a career forever? I don't know. But what's going to be a career forever? Who knows? Like a second ago, we thought that it was the blue-collar labor that was going to be abstracted first. It was the robots that were going to take over. Then Gen AI comes out, and then all the artists suddenly look like, holy shit, is this going to do all animation now? Is it going to do all music now? They get real scared. And now I see the latest Tesla robot going like, oh, maybe we're back now to blue-collar being in trouble, because if it can dance like that, it can probably fix a toilet. So no one knows anything. And you have to then position yourself for the future in such a way that it doesn't matter. That you pick a profession or path where if it turns out that you have to retool and reskill, you're not going to regret the path you took. That's a general life principle for me. How I look at all endeavors I involve myself in is I want to be content with all outcomes. When we start working on a new product at 37 Signals, I set up my mental model for its success. And I go, do you know what? If no one wants this, I will have had another opportunity to write beautiful Ruby code, to explore a greenfield domain, to learn something new, to build a system I want, even if no one else wants it. What a blessing. What a privilege. If a bunch of people want it, that's great. We can pay some salaries. We can keep the business running. And if it's a blow away success, wonderful. I get to impact a bunch of people.